So as I mentioned, part of the inspection is measuring the thickness of the coating on the metal, and we have different gadgets for doing this. So let's give this a shot, and I'm going to take a picture as we do this. So as you can see here, it's recording 8.26 mils, which is actually thicker than the standard factory paint. We'll go around it and take a couple measurements: 7.7, 9.0, which is getting higher, 13, 8, and I usually take pictures as I'm doing this so that we have proof, 17, 9. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side to compare, but I already can tell you that right off the bat that this is not normal. These are not factory spec measurements. We can go over here and confirm this. So it's still a little thicker than it's supposed to be. And now we're down to 4.8, which is normal from the factory. 5.2, again, it's within specs for Acura vehicles. 4.7. 4.9. Now this vehicle, we've already measured all around it, so we know that the affected area is this part. So the rear passenger door and the rear fender was smashed and repainted. In fact, if you come up close, you could see imperfections here where you see paint bubbling, and those are signs that tell you that it's been repainted and it's not original paint, and you could see waves in the paint. Again, it's not original paint. Also, what's strange here is that this covering, which is to prevent rocks from damaging the door, is actually black. So it's supposed to be a transparent material that's put on the door. What they did is they just repainted over the covering, which gives away the fact that the car has been repainted. So which basically we will go around to the other side and take the same measurements here. You see 4.3, 4.3, 5.4, 5.2. So like I mentioned, this side is all original. You can also tell the difference from the way it sounds. When you're putting the gauge on it, if it's factory paint, you can kind of hear the metal versus hearing the Bondo when it's been repainted. So again, if we go all around, 5.2, so 4.7. This is all within specs. Now, certain areas have a little more paint. Like if you get close to the edges, the metal components is a little different, so the paint will be a little thicker or thinner depending on the make and the factory specs. But as long as it's within 4 to 5 mils, then you know it's factory paint. But if it's 8, 9, 10, 12, sometimes we see 25, 30. That means it's really been smashed in, filled in with Bondo, and then repainted. Okay. The other thing we do with these is we check all the screws on all the doors. So we're gonna look at the screws, we're gonna compare one side to the other, and we're also gonna pop the hood and the trunk and compare the various screws and how they are. If they've been unwound, then that's also an indication of prior accident work being done on the car. Like the fenders need to be clean, the screws on the fenders must be clean if it's all original. So we pop the hood, and again we are going to look at the edges to see if certain components have been touched up, painted, repainted. When there are covers, again, our inspections are visual only, so we don't tear apart parts from the car because we want to preserve the evidence the way it is. So we just look at whatever is visible from the outside. Like if it had been smashed from the front, you would see marks here. It wouldn't be even, but as you can see, it's all clean and straight. So there was no accident damage to the front of the vehicle. And again, these plastic components, if there had been an accident, pieces would be broken. You would see parts that would misalign, and screws would be unwound and dirty, or the paint would have been scratched off, and that would be a telltale sign that the car was in an accident. So it looks very clean here. We're gonna look around here to the back of the car. So catch the screws. You could see they have been unwound, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't an accident. So part of the inspection is the trunk. Same theory as the front. We look at the edges to see if anything has been damaged, unscrewed, unwound. The other thing we look at, if you come around, is the inside panels, if they've been damaged. A lot of vehicles have little pop-up doors, sometimes here on the side, other times, you have these things that come up. We find a lot of evidence of damage underneath these components because a lot of times the shops don't go into that much detail when they repair things. So, for example, oftentimes we'd see this trunk component having damage. In this case, it does not have damage, so it appears to be clean. That means the damage to this vehicle was to the exterior. Again, this paint, it's got marks, you could see bubbles, so it's not original on this side, but there's no evidence of damage here.